Hello, my name is Jamie, and today this video is an exciting one for me. So this is the conclusion of the Crystal sessions, that saga. So where we left off is I made a textured terrain base, mini base. Let's go to documentation, and we'll look at the mini bases. And outside of this video, I expanded the set. So before I just made a mini base that was textured for the slotted mini base. I then took that code and expanded it out to do all of the different types of bases. So the oval, the rectangle, the hexagon, and the circle here. So they've all got code examples of making textured bases for each. Not too bad. And then, so we're going to take that code and we're going to marry it up with the crystal code. And here we have our randomized crystal groups, right? And so we're going to expand that out. And this is a neat session because it's going to have some aha moments in it, some neat discovery, and some cool things going on. So I'm excited for this one. All right, let's get to it. Randomized crystals, session 3, bringing it all together. So first things first, we're going to open our editor, CQ Edit. Helps if I go to the right place. So I'm going to go to the workout environment, the Python virtual environment, launch the editor, start a new scribble, new proof of concept document. Get our imports worked out. So import in cadquery. From cadquery helper, we're going to import in a base. So I'm going to make a class definition this time. So before I had been making straight method invocations, generate the methods in order to make the utilities and the like. In this case, I'm going to go with the builder pattern. So we're going to define an init method, and then a make method, and then a build method. And the whole scope of the life cycle here is that if you call build prior to having called make, then the base class will throw an exception saying, "Hey, you need to call make first," and that's pretty much the overhead that inheriting from that class saves. So right now I'm just getting test code set up, proof of concept. So we're just gonna make our crystal wall, and then we're gonna instantiate it and see if we can get a basic cube out of it. So instantiate, call make, call build, and then see if what we get for the generated output. Okay, here's our basic cube. So start defining parameters. And then once we get some parameters set up, we'll start making some make lifecycle methods. And keep in mind, I don't actually type this fast. I'm just running this at double speed just to try to keep this somewhat engaging. Because if it's going at half speed, well, you probably wouldn't want to go through this. And you may not as is. So first we're going to make our mini base. We'll make a method to create set object. We'll do the import for pulling it in. So that's the class that came out of the last video, is that slot uneven. We're gonna basically define it, declare it, add a render flag for whether to render or not the mini base. So we haven't even made the base. I'm just setting up all the boilerplate code. So if the render is set to true, we'll add the base to our scene. Otherwise, we'll skip it. Start adding in the needed parameters. All of this is fresh in my head because I did all of these sessions in one sitting, and I just split it up into 3 parts. So I have a fairly good understanding of what I'm trying to do here. All right. So there is our mini base. We need to add our parameters to it, but that's okay. We at least got an initial object. Code formatting. Okay, so I'm going to translate the base and basically put it at the 0 point for the z-axis. Okay, instantiate my seed, but I don't need the box anymore, the placeholder box. Then we'll change our flag. So if I set render base to false, we don't see the base anymore. Okay, so next we're going to make some crystals. Call our make crystals. And then here I'm thinking about, well, how do I want to start this? First, we'll make a placeholder. Then we'll add it to the builder. So if this object is not none, we can add it to our scene. And we'll just start off with a simple box to see if I got some baseline stuff working, I guess. And effectively, this is just a placeholder. Make sure I got the naming right. Okay, we got our box back. And so I'm just going to yoink the code for the crystal group and start modifying that. So I'm going to the crystal documentation. I'm going to grab a single instance of a crystal. So this is a single instance of a randomized crystal. It has two return types, the crystal and the height. Start adding some parameterization. Make sure this is doing what I anticipate it to do. Oh, we're going to translate along the height. Okay, okay. Just getting that centered on the base. So we got one crystal, and it's going to be positioned relatively accurate to the base. Okay. And we're going to make it into a tuple. So a top height, a mid height, and then I'm not even sure if I'm going to set a step right now. Hard code that for the moment. Add our seed. Something blew up. Okay. Yoink that guy. Add in the rest of the parameters. All right, so here's the rendered output without the base. So we can start mixing with the crystal and then get it to the general scale of what I'm looking for. Getting the widths in line so it's not too out of scale. Render the base. Okay. And all I'm messing with are the mins and the maxes, right? Trying to get some feel for if this is where it needs to be. Okay, start messing with the seed. So there I'm debating the number of faces, what's the proper step at level I should be using. All right, so now we're gonna yoink the code for the crystal group, move our crystal adder method, so yoink this instantiation for the single lone crystal, dump it into the crystal adder. That gives us our general ranges that I worked on. We're going to change the incrementer to be whatever the current seed is, plus the count. Grab the instantiation. Run our crystal adder, return our group, and just see what happens. Okay, so now we have the same crystal repeated. Our seed didn't take the way I was hoping. Helps if I apply it though. So right now I'm going through the rigmarole to see, oh, why didn't the seed take? But I'm not actually applying it. So in the crystal instantiation, I still have that seed equals self dot seed. And I need to make it my adder seed. Watch me panic as I try to figure that out. Oh yeah, duh. Okay, run it. There's some variant crystals. Go down here, change our count. So I don't really need a line of 5 of them. I just need enough to fill the base. Change our spacing out. And kind of the neat thing with this whole series is I kind of went into this process blind. I didn't know how I was going to end up implementing all this together. So it's kind of fun to do it live for the first time and then kind of go back over it. So I opted for I'm going to basically set my crystal count and then dynamically space it based on that. So we'll take the overall length of the base, divide it by the number of crystals we want to show, and then set up this kind of arbitrary margin for how we want to space the crystals out. So our base length, going to add minus our margin, so the margins to the sides. And even then, like I'm impressed with, like that's a good first start, right? There's some interesting potential unlocked with that. Spelling counts. I blew my parameter out when I copied it. Change the seed. All right, so this is where it starts getting about like one of the aha moments, right? You can kind of see this different varieties arriving just from simply changing the seed. And to me, like this kind of code is super cool. Yeah. So I was elated once I started getting results like that because again, I went into this process blind. This is just pure creation. I didn't know what I was going to end up with. Start modifying the height. Okay. And so I'm pretty happy with that. We're going to start messing with it and adding some some new testing, right? Yeah. So we're going to do a random rotate on these things. And I forget what axis this is going to be on. So I'm thinking about, what axis could I mess with this on? So let's do a random rotate on X. And how do I want to define that? So what if we said a min and a max? So the range. So a min, a max, and a step. So we'll start doing that tuple stuff. And so the idea is that along the x-axis, when we're writing these out, we can apply a random rotation, right? So we can say if da 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 da, if we have it, and we'll just grab the code for how we're doing the other type of uh, min-max step type method. So I just grab that method for resolving out ranges. And so we're going to say if we have a random, so if it's not equal to null, none, then we're going to apply a random rotate, solid our value, and decide on what random rotation we're going to have on these things. And keep in mind this will be per call of the loop, so that you'll get a new value on each loop iteration. Bring in our numpy a range, which is part of our helper function. And we'll import in random so we can make our random choice. And it doesn't look like it's quite applied yet. So now we're generating off our random rotation, and we're actually going to rotate each node. All right, here we go. Finally, we got a rotation kicking off. And so for me, that's cool. That's you can set a hard-coded value for the rotation, or you can set a min-max step for the rotation, or nothing, right? So there's a lot of different opportunities presented by code like that, right? Different variations. So that's messing with the length, which isn't getting dynamically applied to the base yet. Right now the base is at a hard-coded size, so I gotta fix that. So where I'm making the mini base, we'll assign the length of the object, the crystal wall. Broke something, of course. Details, details. All right, so here we've got a base. It's expanded out with the crystals in it, and we can start messing with like our crystal count. And right now I'm making all these dumb mistakes because I'm excited. I'm going fast, right? Like this is cool stuff. So we'll start modifying our rotation and start playing with that. So if we have none, they're all in one straight orientation. If we set a hard-coded value, they start leaning all on one side. And then if we set this min-max step deal, we get this random variation. And if we change our seed, we get different crystals, different orientations, different base. All the variations add up pretty quickly once you start adding in more and more attributes. So I'm playing around with the margins, how far apart the crystals are, how many crystals there are, whether they're sparse, whether they're and the neat bit with all this examples, you're seeing all these different examples pop up, right? All these different variations, opportunities for change, right? Yeah, so I'm chuffed with this. This is cool stuff. And so right now I'm just looking at like, well, what's working, what isn't working. Uh, yeah, so I'm happy with that. That's a neat win. So we'll start expanding on this. We have rotate X. What if we did rotate Y? Change our parameters. Basically dupe the code, add it for a different parameter, different axes. Do rotate Y, resolve out our value, change that, change where we're applying our rotation. And now we get random rotation along the y-axis. Well, start applying it, change our values. Yep, change our min and max, change the step. And make sure I'm applying it. Right now it doesn't look like I'm applying it at the moment. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So that's with none. Okay, so there they're just straight standing. Okay. So yeah, it's working. Comment out, add some other different variations. So we'll say there are none. Let's say they all went in hard-coded direction. So they all should just be leaning towards one side. Yeah, that's working how I want it to. And if we change the seed, then you get different crystal variants. Bring that back. Change our crystal count. Mess around with the margin. Yeah, that's cool. Now we're going to make a base cut. So all of the crystals protruding outside the base at the bottom, I want to do something about that. So all I'm going to do is make a cut box. So something that fills out the length and width of the base, set an arbitrary height on it, align that to the bottom of the base, and then do a cut operation. So we'll go there, our global length, width, and just arbitrary height. Add our base cut. For now, just for testing, we'll add it. Later on, I'll change that to a remove operation, a cut operation. Okay, so there's the initial cut box. Not applying the proper width to the base. All right, so now the outline matches. We need to translate the base cut so that's zeroed out. Now it's aligned to the bottom. I don't care that it's arbitrarily high. That's fine. And then we cut, and that removes off the protruding uh, widgets hanging off the bottom of the base. Trying out different variations. So we went back to a smaller overall length, and then we're playing around with the crystal count and seeing what kind of variations we can get. Messing around with the width, making sure that still works if I change the width. Yeah, so this was a super cool demonstration, right? All right, so kind of an abrupt end, but thank you for watching. I'm super happy with how this kind of code came out, and it adds interesting opportunities for future projects. Okay. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. If you like these videos and you want to see more projects like this, please check out the Patreon. And all right, have a good one. Thank you.